On November 14th, 1908, a 2-year-old boy was placed on the dragon throne. He was too small to sit still. He cried during the ceremony. The officials surrounding him had to distract him with toys to get through the ritual. When the kowtowing was finished and the throne room fell into the silence required by protocol, the boy looked at his father and said, according to the records, "I don't like it here. I want to go home." His father carried him out. His name was Jiro Puyi. He was now the Emperor of China. He had not chosen it. He did not understand it. He would spend the next 6 decades trying to understand what exactly it had done to him. He would be emperor 3 times, prisoner twice, and for the last years of his life, he would trim hedges in a Beijing botanical garden and call it the most peaceful period of his existence. The Forbidden City in Beijing covers 72 hectares. It has 980 buildings and 8,700 rooms. Puyi had nearly all of it. He had thousands of servants, eunuchs, and attendants. He had tutors who taught him Chinese, English, and calligraphy. He had a Scottish tutor named Reginald Johnston, who gave him an English name, Henry, and introduced him to Western customs. What he did not have was contact with the world outside the walls. He grew up believing he was the center of everything. The court still followed Qing protocols, as if the dynasty had not ended. Officials bowed. Eunuchs ran at his commands. The title of emperor was used. Outside the walls, China was a republic, had been since 1912. The dynasty had collapsed when Puyi was 6. But inside the Forbidden City, in the years after his abdication, that fact was somewhat abstract. The Xinhai Revolution of 1911 overthrew the Qing Dynasty in a series of uprisings across China. By early 1912, the military forces of the new republic had made the position of the imperial government untenable. On February 12, 1912, Puyi abdicated. He was 6 years old. A regent signed the document. Puyi did not fully understand what had happened. The articles of favorable treatment allowed him to continue living in the Forbidden City, retain the title of emperor within its walls, and receive an annual payment from the new government. It was an unusual arrangement. A deposed emperor living in his own palace, surrounded by his own court, in a country that no longer recognized him as anything. This continued for 12 years. In 1924, the warlord Feng Yuxiang turned his forces on Beijing. He revised the Articles of Favorable Treatment unilaterally. Puyi was given hours to leave the Forbidden City. He was 18 years old. He had lived his entire conscious life inside those walls. He moved to the Japanese concession in Tianjin, where Japan maintained extraterritorial control. The Japanese protected him. They also, gradually, developed plans for him. When Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931 and established the puppet state of Manchukuo, they offered Puyi a throne. He would be emperor again. Of a country that existed as a Japanese administrative fiction, but emperor nonetheless. He accepted. On March 1st, 1934, Puyi was enthroned as Emperor Kangde of Manchukuo. He would later write that he had few real choices. Historians continue to debate how much agency he actually had. Japan surrendered in August 1945. Puyi was at Shenyang Airport, attempting to flee to Japan, when Soviet paratroopers landed and surrounded the aircraft. He was taken into Soviet custody. He spent 5 years in the Soviet Union while his fate was negotiated. In 1950, he was transferred to the People's Republic of China and sent to the Fushun War Criminals Management Center, a facility where former Japanese collaborators and nationalist officials were held for political re-education. He was there for 9 years. The process, by his own account, was disorienting. He had lived his entire life being served. At Fushun, he was expected to clean his own room, wash his own clothes, and participate in group sessions where his past conduct was examined critically. He later wrote that he cried frequently in the first years, not from mistreatment. The conditions were not brutal by prison standards, but because, for the first time in his life, no one bowed. He was released on December 4th, 1959, under a general amnesty. He was 53 years old. He had no living relatives with resources. He had no job skills. He had never cooked a meal, taken public transportation, or handled money independently. He was given a position at the Beijing Botanical Garden. He tended plants. He took the bus to work. He earned a salary reported to be around 100 yuan per month. By his own testimony, it was the period of his life during which he was most at peace. He published his autobiography in 1964. From emperor to citizen, he married for the 5th time to a nurse named Li Shuxian. He worked as a political consultant for the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. He died on October 17th, 1967, of kidney cancer. He was 61 years old. The Cultural Revolution was in full force. His death received limited official acknowledgement. Puyi is one of the few people in history to have experienced genuinely incompatible extremes within a single lifetime. He was, by birth, the holder of the mandate of heaven, the ancient Chinese concept by which the emperor was the axis of civilization itself. He lived as a god-king in the world's largest palace, thus he had never, by his own account, tied his own shoes until he was an adult, because no emperor would do such a thing. And then he became a gardener. He described this in his memoir not as degradation, but as resolution. The gardening, the bus rides, the ordinary salary. These were, he wrote, the first experiences of his life that were genuinely his own. Nobody had commanded him to have them. Whether his late life contentment was genuine or performed for political reasons, he was writing under the PRC government's scrutiny, is something historians still debate. The Forbidden City, where it all began, is now the most visited museum in the world. About 19 million people walk through it each year. None of them bow. Puyi's life is the kind of story that sounds invented. Emperor to prisoner to gardener inside one human lifetime. The Dragon Throne covers history like this, the extreme trajectories, the ironic endings, the lives that no single label can contain. Subscribe, and there's more where this came from.